Hi, this is Corral at CorralFicklin.com and WelcomeNetwork.com. And welcome is WYLCOME.com. Welcome, WYLCOME Network.com. And this is a continuation of our discussion on my rant and raving about language and what language is, which is a mode of communication, what language isn't, a complicated mode of communication that only very intelligent people are able to, that only intelligent people are able to understand. Only intelligent people, are able to understand. So what we do at Welcome is we either try to be a complement or supplement to your teachers, that is, to what you have been taught in school, or if necessary, use our cards to teach yourself what you need to learn. We have cards dealing with all different aspects of the English language. We have cards on what are nouns, irregular verbs, some of the most common regular verbs. We talk about, in some of the books that I've written, what is not so much what is an adjective, which is describing a verb, and an adverb, which is describing an adjective or a verb. For example, he runs, and then the question is, how does he run? Quickly. How quickly? Very quickly. So an adverb, and very, by the way, is an adverb. Quickly is an adverb because it tells you how. He is very handsome. How handsome? Very handsome. Very being the adverb. Handsome being the adjective. So it's not so much giving you the definition, but showing you how these different words function in English, because mostly it's English when you're talking about looking at basic grammar. One of the things that I think is extremely important, especially if you haven't had the opportunity of I'm not going to say a good education, an excellent education, an education that only the best money can buy, because in a lot of parts of the world, only if you have the best money do you get a very good education. One of the things that I wanted to really do, and I did do, and I completed, was to look at the affixes in English, that is, the prefixes, the roots, and the suffixes. Now, a lot of the suffixes are Germanic in origin. Not all of them, but a lot. Some of the prefixes are, but a lot of the prefixes and a lot of the roots are Latin and Greek and French. But if I say French, I'm saying Latin, but it just comes through the French language. Those are the aspects, those are the areas of language that a lot of English speakers have problems if they haven't had the opportunity of a good education. What you should do, especially if you do not feel you're getting a good education, especially when it comes to learning how to communicate in your language, you should go into welcome.com, see all the downloads that we have available, go in there and download the material that you need in order to learn how to speak English correctly, in order to speak English well, to understand that the expression, you can do good by doing well. That expression, you can do good and do well. What's the difference? Because a lot of times in English we use well and good to mean the same thing, and they don't. Well is only an adverb. Good, an adverb, but when we use it, an adjective. You know, how are you doing? People say good. You mean well. And in Spanish, there's no problem. You don't say, ¿Cómo estás? Bueno. You don't say bueno, you say bien. And well is bien. Also, if you want to learn how to speak another language and you want to get a toehold, a foothold into Spanish, we can also help. We can even help you when it comes to French. More French, though, more idiomatic expressions. That's what I basically have in French. But in Spanish, if you want to learn what some of the most, no, all of the important irregular verbs mean, and what do they mean as far as they're all different meanings, literal as far and as well as metaphoric, come into our site. It's not difficult, especially if you're not getting the kind of education you want. You can learn on your own. You know, Welcome doesn't have all the answers. Welcome Network doesn't have all the answers, but it does have some of the aspects of language which can help you. Also, we have tutors available. Write to us at welcomenetwork.com. Write to us at the email and let us know if you want a tutor to help you to understand your language. Our tutors specialize in those areas of language which are considered, because I don't consider language complex, but there are areas that are harder to understand than others. For example, the subjunctive in Spanish. For an English speaker, it can be difficult. How do you use the subjunctive in Spanish? How do you learn irregular verbs in Spanish? How do you learn irregular verbs in English? Right? Now, when it comes to articles, frankly, whether a noun is plural versus, masculine versus feminine, that you have to memorize. You know, there's certain rules, but generally speaking, it's a matter of memorization. Also, what we do, and I want to say this before we run out of time, especially if you're a Spanish speaker, we try to help you to understand that you don't have to forget Spanish in order to learn English. In fact, when you begin to speak a higher level of the language, Spanish is a godsend. It will truly help you to understand. Your problem is when you want to learn to speak the English that everyone speaks, the Germanic part. But once you understand the Germanic part of English, and now you want to go to the higher level, the collegiate vocabulary, you will find that Spanish will be a godsend. Spanish will help you out. So you will know certain words that an English speaker will have to learn, even though that person is learning to speak English, which is his or her language. It's important to learn to communicate on the highest level that you choose to communicate. Welcome Network can help. Our cards, our books, our study guides, our tutors. This is Coralla Ficklin at CorallaFicklin.com and WelcomeNetwork.com.